So what is the social body? For me, the social body is relationship. The social body is composed of all the relationships that make up a community, that make up a society. It is all of those connective tissues that make us responsible to one another, that make us responsible to our past, that make us responsible to our future, and that from a certain vantage point, if we look at the world through a certain lens, we don't see any of that connective tissue. We just see a bunch of individuals who are apparently all the same, doing things on their own. If we look through the lens that reveals the social body, we see a group of people who are responsible to one another, who have actually shared histories together, who will share futures together, and who have to figure out how to feel each other, how to be in feeling relationship with one another, not just because of the present, but also because of the past, and also because of the future. So for us, I think the social body is a revolutionary way of thinking about ourselves, not just as individual, but as social, because it means that we have to think relationally. We have to think of what we think of as healing, health, well-being, balance, justice, peace. All of these questions require thinking about our tethers, our connections, our bonds that are with beings and people and histories that are not necessarily in our visible space, right? So it's a way of kind of opening the windows and seeing what actually is. Because I think, for me, this is the real piece. We are trained almost to see a fiction of the way things are. And the question is, how do we see how things actually are? And that, when we get to studying the social body, experiencing the social body, inquiring into it through our practice, our embodied practice, we begin to see how things actually are. And it changes us because we come into responsible relationship.
And it's countercultural because, again, in dominant culture, dominant white culture, we are taught to really conceive of ourselves as individual, and we practice for ourselves. And maybe the idea of justice is out there somewhere as a goal eventually, but the way it has grown, and certainly in the last 20 years, yoga has become about the individual and about perfecting the form of the individual body. And that really injures us. That is a core injury that it replicates racism, gender violence, all of the things that we would like to see change. And sometimes I hear people talk about yoga needing to be apolitical, or yoga is over here, politics or social change is over here. And for me personally, it's impossible to separate them. Really, that responsibility that you talked about so beautifully is present in every practice if we really are connected. And you brought up this wonderful metaphor of connective tissue. And our connective tissue literally links every cell in our bodies. And we know that we have that interpersonally and collectively as well. So attending to that isn't making something political. It's actually acknowledging what is present, what has been left out, and what we are called to do today to change.